So Adam is on StreamYard, so we're on Zoom. So hopefully when I download this, Aaron can find it and this finds its way onto YouTube and not just lost in my iPad today. Also on a different angle because this computer doesn't want to work and I don't have the time to fix it, but we're back on either way today. And Waylon, we're talking about the 10 things nobody wants to do in our business. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to talk about this topic. I think it'll be a fun one for sure.
I think we oftentimes joke about like it. Nobody wants to go to the gym. Nobody wants to do that thing or that workout or that exercise. It's kind of the parallel into this conversation. But even the people that are the most interested in being physically fit, I don't think they really want to. They just know they have to. Am I off course when I think that?
No, it's 100% accurate. We talked about it on your call this morning on the team call. You basically get good at things by doing a lot of things you don't want to do. Right now, I'm at the beach. I love talking to you, but doing a podcast while at the beach or doing one of these is not an ideal thing. But guess what? It's good for our business. It's fun to talk about the business and stay sharp. And that's what we got to do sometimes.
I think the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about things that a personal producer doesn't want to do is they don't want to buy leads. Like even when I didn't know that leads cost money when I signed up for them, which probably saved my ass in the business. Because if I knew they cost money, I would think I couldn't afford them. I probably wouldn't have done it. But nobody really wants to buy leads. Can we talk about that as number 10 on the list?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like everything in life. Like, everybody talks about invest. It's like, well, that's really what you're doing when you're buying leads. You're investing. But it's hard to understand when you're first getting started what the other side of that looks like. It's just like, oh my God, I spent $1,200 on pieces of paper to go talk to people. What am I doing? And of course, that's going to be your reaction if you don't know what you're doing or, you're just unsure, the uncertainty factor. But agents don't like to do it. First you tell a brand new person that's just getting started in insurance, okay, you got your license, you got all set up with the carriers. Now I need your credit card. Agents freak out. It's like a into the world type of thing. It's like, oh my God, I got to do what? I got to spend how much money to do this thing? Oh, I don't know if I can do that until, like you have the money come out, you get the leads delivered, you go work and you're like, well, that's not too bad. I made my money back in 3 hours. So
Yeah.
it's just a psychological thing. People have a difficult time mentally getting over that.
I think awesome. We can go from that to a side note. 10A of the things you don't want to do is work leads in an area that's uncomfortable, unfamiliar, had an undesirable outcome the 1 week you went there. I'm working leads in my home turf this week, which is not normal for me. I don't want to do that, but I have to do it based off of this week's schedule. Let's talk about people that don't want to work leads in an area they don't want to work them. What could the benefit come from that?
Yeah, I mean, that's getting outside of your comfort zone. And it's also proving to yourself if you ever have any hopes and dreams of building an agency or anything, it's kind of solidifying the fact that like this business on the simplified issue life side and Medicare, it travels. Like you can do it anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's the same process. It's the same companies. It's the same presentation from state to state, from county to county, from area to area. And honestly, just about any agent who has done travel trips or blitzes or whatever you want to call them almost always says, I was more focused than I had to be. I had nothing else to do but work. And you also usually make more money on those trips than you do when you're just working in your normal territory. Because again, you're uber focused because of the heightened sense of like, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where the gas stations are. I don't know where I can stop and pee. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm just going to go to the next house.
Exactly. I think we can dispel the myth pretty safely that there's no such thing as my area, one way or the other, when it comes to leads and working, right?
Exactly. Like you can have an area that you typically work, but if you're that like set on an area, especially with the way the leads have gotten over the last, couple of years now, you need to be pretty flexible if you want to do this at a high level for a long period of time.
How far should an agent be willing to travel on a weekly basis to work a reoccurring direct mail program in the field?
At minimum, like especially if you're, if you're working in rural areas like small counties, then you need to be willing to travel a couple hours. But if you're willing to work in cities or metro areas, I mean, within an hour and a half, maybe is about as wide as I would probably go just for profitability purposes. You don't want to be driving 3 hours one way to the field. That's not going to go real well after about 3 months. They're going to be like, yeah, this kind of sucks. But within an hour of where you live, there's almost absolutely an open territory that's quality that you can consistently run week in and week out. And if you're not willing to drive an hour, there's people that drive to offices an hour away to make $20 an hour. So like they're not making enough money hourly to cover their dang gas. So what we do is obviously lucrative. So you should be willing to drive an hour because we're basically like glorified truck drivers. We should get paid per mile, and we pretty much do. It's a write-off. So, be willing to travel a little bit's a good thing.
Think if you did some research, you'd find out most office workers that go to an office commute 50 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, sometimes even longer. So why aren't we willing to do that ourselves?
Yeah.
Number 9 on the list of things that people don't want to do but really have to do them would include things like door knocking and setting their own appointments. Let's talk a little bit about setting your own appointments first, because everybody wants to outsource it. Everybody wants the best appointment setter in the business that only charges for the set appointments, that only charges $10 for them. It doesn't exist. Let's talk about setting your own appointments as something someone doesn't want to do.
Well, that kind of drives me nuts. I see a new post every day or every week. Who's the best appointment setter? Who has the best appointment setters? And the answer is always going to be you. Like, you are your best appointment setter, because one, you're touching the client first, the person who's going to be in their home or with them wherever you are presenting. So you are your best appointment setter. Let's dispel that myth right now. And learning to set appointments is a great skill to develop. Nobody was just born and like, I'm great on the phone. Like, I can dial anybody, set an appointment. But with what we do, if you're working decent quality leads, direct mail in your local area, it's kind of like riding a bike. You say the same thing over and over again. It's a 2-minute phone call. It's just pick up the phone, like Jordan Belfort style. Just pick up the damn phone and call your leads. Call your leads, say the same 9 sentences over and over and over again, confirm your appointment, and go to the appointment. So it's not difficult, just takes a little bit of time. And again, it's an anxiety thing. I think people are just anxious. It's like, oh man, I'm calling like a stranger. You are, but again, call them with the mindset that they want you to come. They wouldn't fill it out if they didn't want you to come. So, always be closing, and just know that you're going to be your best appointment setter. So that's just how this works.
When is it appropriate to outsource the responsibility, though? Because obviously I'd be hypocritical to say set your own appointments when I have someone setting them for me right now. Cool. I refer people to appointment setters. I talk about when it's valuable. When is it appropriate for a personal producer or a builder to outsource this?
Yeah. So once you are comfortable, one, I would say get good at it yourself first. Once you're already passable at it, just in case crap hits the fan, your appointment setter or something happens to them and you've got to do it again. You don't want to be where it's like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. Like, you don't want your business to be flipped upside down because of an appointment setter being absent for a couple of days. Number one. So once you're pretty good at it, and once you've reached the cash flow to the point where it's like, it costs me more money to spend the 3 or 4 hours a week on the phone than it does for me to just be going to appointments. And it's worth me spending a little bit of additional cash flow to be having more appointments. So that's really where you got to figure out, like, okay, I'm taking 30 leads a week or 40 leads a week. I could be dialing them for 6 hours this week, or those 6 hours that could be spent in presentations. And once your closing percentage is over, 25, 30, 40%, you can, transfer that time over to appointments rather than dialing time. So obviously we get paid for closing deals, not for setting appointments. So that's when it starts to make sense. Again, the biggest thing though is having the cash flow positive so that you're not like spending money you don't have on an appointment setter when you don't even have leads to give them. You need to be spending your first capital on leads. Once you've got that settled, then an appointment setter's not a bad idea.
But Waylon, I want to give the appointment setter the leads I have in the attic from 2018 that I dialed, worked, door knocked, and I want them to set 40 appointments off them for me this week.
Yeah, no, that's the most common thing you see. Like, what if I give an appointment setter 3,000 2017 leads? Like, well, you're going to get 0 appointments.
You might get 3. Just by tough luck.
You might. You might as well just give them the phone book at that point. It's not an appointment setter. That's a telemarketer. They're different.
Yeah. I don't, number 8 on the list, I guess maybe it's 7 at this point, of the 10 things you don't want to do, but you have to do them, just like most things in business and self-development, is work 4 to 6 days in your first 12 to 24 months. Everybody wants to be able to be independent. I love that phrase. When I heard it was, I'm independent. Well, that just means you sell multiple carriers. It doesn't mean you have no self-accountability. People don't want to put in the work when they start in the business, and they die on the vine because of it. Talk about that with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the old saying is like, if you have a regular job, a job, you'll work 8 to 12 hours for someone else, but you won't work 4 to 6 days, 8 to 12 hours for yourself, that's just a huge screw up on your end. All you're doing is screwing yourself over. And when you start to look at it like that, from that scope, it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks. Like I'm doing this business for me, for my family. And if I'm not willing to work 4 to 6 days, 8 to 12 hours a day, full time, essentially, me on what I'm trying to create, then like, who else is there to blame? Like, what am I doing? What are we doing here? If you're putting in part-time effort in this business, you'll get less than part-time results. You won't be worth your while, honestly, with the headache and things that are created by the business. Part-time effort just typically doesn't yield much of anything too great, to be honest.
Yeah, my favorite is someone said I want them to do. Maybe no one said this. Maybe I imagined this one night. I want to do ACA part time after my 9 to 5, and I'm like that. You might as well just do nothing because nothing's going to come from that. Like nothing big comes from doing something small in the very beginning.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it takes massive action, massive effort to get started in this business. There's a lot of programs, a lot of leads, a lot of these different things that help you, but they don't just magically turn into money. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy to fine tune your craft and get better.
7 on the list is things that agents don't want to do, but they need to do. Maybe not a thing they need to do, but understand is constructive criticism, accountability, and self accountability. Nobody wants their feelings hurt in 2023, but sometimes feelings have to be hurt to grow from different business experiences. Am I off base in thinking that?
Not at all. I mean, having difficult conversations is really how you improve, how the agencies improve, how an agent improves, how everyone across the food chain improves is by having those not so easy conversations. Like you're screwing something up or something isn't going as planned. There needs to be conversations to be had. Like, hey, look, this is what I'm seeing. Let's remedy it. How do we fix it? That's the key, is having the conversations with the idea of like, how do we fix it? What's the next step? Not just like, here's the problem, just laying this problem together and make more problems. Like, no, that's not really the best way to handle it. But sometimes it takes that initial difficult, like angry conversation or emotional conversation to get the ball rolling on stuff.
Yeah, I think the problem is that anger is not an emotion that leads to problem resolution. Anger is like a survive or a fight or flight emotion. It's not a solving kind of situation. And sometimes I'll have these conversations with agents as we're onboarding them in a very rigid, high demand type system where I expect a lot out of people because I know they have a lot they can do. I'll tell them. Sometimes I might tell you, we're all very angry about this and we're not going to solve this tonight. So let's talk about it tomorrow. Because I've learned over the course of time, cooler heads do prevail and getting angry doesn't get anything done.
Exactly right. Like you said, like just getting emotionally charged and coming at each other, it doesn't usually end up well. It's just kind of and nothing gets accomplished outside of just name calling or like whatever you accomplish out of it, even if it gets to that point. So it's just like, yeah, let's take a deep breath, take a step back. We've identified the problem. Now let's figure out where to go next.
And then having some level of mutual respect for each other. I mean, this isn't the military. You're not a general and I'm not a captain and they're not a soldier, but there's also some level of mutual business respect we should have for each other. I wouldn't disrespect that in the process of expecting to get something fixed. And it's tough sometimes. I've watched you do it to kind of professionally put somebody in their place to remind them we're all human beings here, and being disrespectful isn't going to solve the problem any easier.
Yep, exactly. Like just to your point, like, yes, what we're doing matters. It's our career. It's the way we make money, the way that we get to do things with our friends, family, and everything. But like you said, we're not in the military. It's not literally life and death. Got to sometimes, take things with a grain of salt, take a step back from it, realize like, okay, how do we just fix this and not, again, kick and scream? We don't need to handle it like children. We're grown adults. Let's figure out the middle ground here between where we are at, where I'm at, and how to move forward. That should just always be the key of it, is like, okay, how do we move forward from it? Because sitting here and talking about the issue gets us nowhere.
Exactly. Sitting here and talking about the issue, we're talking about the 10 things you don't want to do in business, but you really have to get where you want to go. I have on the list is accepting that most things in business are you versus you problems. I don't know when it evolves from a you versus you to something bigger. Maybe it's when you hire W-2 employees and they depend on you, because your agents, you don't hire them. They don't work for you. It's a far more collaborative relationship than an employee. But realistically, it's you versus you for most of this producer-based insurance industry. And everything else kind of revolves around that. Tell me a little bit about what you said earlier today about the you versus you side of things you don't want to do and need to do in this business.
So I mean, it's it just spans across all parts of life, like this business specifically. So like, it's and the sooner you recognize it, and the sooner you become comfortable with like whether it's good or it's bad. Like it's good, it's you. Like you should be happy about that. Congratulate yourself. Be excited. But if it's a screw up, it's also you. Like, when your card doesn't go through for leads, that's you. That was a decision making for weeks up until that point with money that led you to that occurrence. Or, usually when there's a money issue, it's usually you. As much as that sucks, it's like, we don't have enough money for this and that. It's like, well, that was me. I did that. That was because I did this, this, and this. I didn't work this day, this day, this day because I just decided to do this instead. That's on me. So recognizing like whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's indifferent, it's on you all the time. Because that's the nature of a 1099. Like when you're a business owner, when you're conducting business and you are the business, all of it's you. You don't have a person to point at in the office and be like, it's their fault. Like, they did this to me. Maybe a carrier didn't answer the phone when you needed them, but it's still you. It's going to come back on you again, whether good, bad, or indifferent. So, it's unfortunate sometimes because you can't control everything. And that's kind of what, we're expected to do at times, is just control everything and have everything together. But understanding it early is important because it's a lot easier way to, stay in the business mentally, realizing that it's on you. Because the sooner you start to relinquish control of things and say like, if Waylon does this for me, we're good. Like it's on him. It's not a big deal. And there's a time where I'm not able to do that for you, and now your business is struggling because of that. Well, that's a tough place to be. You don't want to be that reliant on someone else to be able to do your business. So having that mindset of like, look, if it's good, it's me. If it's bad, it's me. If it's indifferent, it's on me. It's you versus you, quite literally in every aspect of the business.
I oftentimes describe to people the idea that what we do, at least in the producer final expense, Medicare, face to face, slightly virtual business model, is kind of like operating a Chick-fil-A franchise. Like I can come into your market, teach you where the stove goes, how the chickens cook, what to say when they walk in the door, how to manage basic day-to-day problems. But in the end, it's your franchise to run. And if you don't run the franchise, it's not going to work. If you try to run the franchise like Burger King, it's not going to work. This is your franchise location to run. And when you embody that ownership mentality, you get a lot further with it. And I think that there's this wall people can put up between where they are and the shiny objects around them. And a lot of the bricks in this wall include things like structure in their business, routines that they have to follow, self-accountability for the success or the struggle, vision, why, mission, accounting. All these little bricks you put up, they keep you on this straight and narrow path. And all this other crap that's taking place in the background gets in the way when you don't have this wall in front of you. And not that you're walling yourself off from other things, but you're protecting yourself from things that really aren't going to get you where you want to go. Lastly, we do a little end note on your podcast that include the worst thing you've seen in the last week or the last month, be it from a producer, an agency owner, but one of those you're like, oh no. So what is the worst thing you've witnessed, seen, observed in the last month in the business?
So this is a good one. And I'll actually touch on this because we are getting close to AEP. Quite literally, I would say 15th technically, but for the agencies, it started over a month ago for AEP planning. For agents, it realistically starts the 1st of October. We already have the plan benefits details, and that's when a lot of folks begin, touching base with their book of business and things. So I say that to say, from an agency perspective, I heard a recent kind of nightmare scenario, if you will, from a large agency. So an agency producing about 8,000 MAPDs annually. So very sizable. That's a lot of Medicare Advantage applications.
Yeah, it is.
They are out west, and we were just going over, and it's an acquaintance that I've recently made in the business. We're just going over kind of just shooting shit a little bit, talking about numbers, money, marketing dollars, those types of things that are available. And any of you that know me in the industry, I just tell you exactly how much is there. Like I don't have any bones to pick with that. Like I believe that everyone should know how much money's out there, and then you break off your piece and we all go our separate ways. So we're talking, okay, Humana's giving us this, Cigna's giving us that, Anthem's giving us this. And here's the override. This person's doing 8,000 MAPDs a year, getting 25% of the marketing from their FMO. He didn't have any knowledge of this. He thought he was getting this sweetheart deal. Turns out he's getting, we just ran the numbers on his 8,000 apps last year. He would have made an additional $1.2 million if he would have got the marketing money just on that alone. Hence that obviously that sprung a pretty big conversation with him and his FMO. Hopefully be able to work with the gentleman next year. It would be great. 8,000 applications wouldn't be half bad, but I say all that to say that make sure you get all the stuff, all the money and all the information when you're signing up with a brokerage or FMO or any partnership or anything. Just as Chris would probably teach you, get the numbers up front, know what you're getting paid, where you're getting paid, what carriers by carrier, have it all broken down before you sign up with anything, because people can pull the wool over your eyes. Don't be afraid to kind of shop things around and get double, triple confirmation from people. And just be careful. That's all I can tell you guys is be careful, because a lot of groups will pay you less than what you're supposed to be paid, not pass through what you probably deserve based off of your size and your ability. So be careful, talk to multiple groups, get double, triple confirmation. As our buddy Scott Burke would always say, get the carrier grids before you do anything. Don't go based off of a FMO level that they made up, so UIP 123, like that's
Good one. It's a good one. Let's make it like 6%.
Yeah, exactly. It's 197% of the third month commission. So no, just be careful before you sign up with anybody, and just know that there are some horror stories out there.
I got one more for you. 30 seconds on this, maybe. Should agents pay to attend their FMO, LMNOP, QSTU, the IMO, their team's events? Should they have to pay to attend something that the company's overriding their work anyway?
No, not at all. That's insane. Okay, so let me preface that. Like, if you have to travel and get a hotel or like a vehicle, that's on you. But
Yeah.
like the event itself, no, they're literally no. That's the goofiest thing ever. Like, why would so you guys probably know I'm not a huge event guy myself, but if you've got to pay to go to the event that the brokerage is making money off of you, or the company that's making money directly off of you selling stuff is making you pay, that's crazy. You work for a promotional company. You don't even work for an insurance brokerage or company if they're making you pay to come visit. Like that, you work for a promo company. Like,
are they making money off you in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. They have to be. Either that, or I mean, there's layers to it. Like, if there's like an agency owner that's running their own event that's charging you, that's just because the brokerage doesn't want to give them money, which makes sense. And then they're making money off of it, or they're trying to not lose money, right? Like up front. But at the end of the day, that's part of running an agency or a brokerage. When you have events, that stuff has to be budgeted out. Like, that's the whole point. It isn't like, hey, I mean, if that were the case, I would just have events every quarter, and that's how I'd make my override. Like, yeah, it's 3,000 a head. We get 20 people here. We're doing great, man.
But see, there's someone that does that. There are places that do quarterly events. They charge boatloads of money for it. And I'm like, if any of those people even sell a policy, is irrelevant because they just made $800 in attending a hype session.
Yep, exactly. I need to get more exciting and get cooler, because that's that idea, but I just couldn't consciously do that to people. Like, yep, I'm going to make this override off of you, and I'm going to charge you $800 to shake my hand 4 times a year.
Pay to go to an event, pay to get to the event, go to good events, learn things, and be around people. But you don't need to have a ticket to get into an event that your agency already makes money when you sell insurance. Waylon, I appreciate you taking the time from the beach today to record the 10, 8, 9, maybe it was 6, I don't know, things people need to do, even though they don't want to do them, to be successful in our business. Thanks for joining me.